Good Friday morning, everybody. It is Friday, August 14, and you are joining me, Todd Hirsch, on The Take. Now, normally, you would be watching me do this live on a LinkedIn Live. Today, we're doing something a little bit differently. I'm actually pre-recording this. For me, it is Wednesday, August 12th. You'll be watching this on Friday, August 14th. I'll explain in a little while why we're doing this a little bit differently and doing a pre-record at the end of the show. We've also got a little bit of an abbreviated show. Normally, I have my regular co-host, Gitane De Silva, join me. She's unavailable this week. It is the dog days of summer. There's a lot of people away, a lot of things, people on vacation, not a lot of economic news. But we wanted to keep the show going this Friday, August 14, for some continuity. We're trying to build some traction so that you know that Friday morning there is going to be The Take. As I said, my name is Todd Hirsch. I am an economist, an author, and a professional speaker. I speak at conferences all across the country. And every week we, myself and usually a co-host, break down the big new economic stories and the geopolitical stories of the week. And we try to instill the idea of what does this mean for you? Because there is so much noise out there. It often is easy to sort of get lost in all of that noise and not really come away with a clear understanding of what this means for you. The average Canadian who is out working, trying to pay bills, trying to maintain a household, trying to keep a job. So that is our job every week. Now, this week, I do want to touch on a couple of stories. The big story that I want to talk about this week is the fires raging through the Okanagan in the interior of British Columbia. Now, I actually just today had lunch with a good friend of mine. He is a helicopter pilot. He just got back this morning, being Wednesday morning. He just got back from fighting the fires in Summerland, BC, with the helicopters and the big buckets that scoop up the water. And he says, I mean, he does this for a living, but he says it is absolutely devastating what's been happening in the Okanagan. Of course, we've seen this in Alberta in the past, the Fort McMurray fires about 10 years ago already. Other parts of the country, we saw the fire in Jasper a couple of years ago. And now this summer, again, we're seeing fires in the Okanagan, especially on that west side of the lake, the town of Summerland, or being evacuated, and other parts of that western side of Lake Okanagan. Now, the reason I want to talk about this, normally we sort of focus on the economics of what is going on. I think in this instance, it's important that we first of all recognize that these fires are a human tragedy. People are losing their homes. In some cases, they are losing their pets. They are seeing devastation. They're being evacuated from their homes. They don't even know when they're going to go back to their homes. They don't know if there's going to be a home left for them. And I think it's really important when we talk about these stories that we recognize first and foremost how human this story is, how tragic and how devastating it is for the people in the Okanagan right now. Secondarily, then we can sort of talk about what does this mean from an economic perspective. And obviously, when you think about natural disasters like fire in a highly populated a tourist zone like the Okanagan, there is a tremendous amount of economic challenge that this presents. Not only are people losing their homes, finding insurance on homes is getting to be very, very expensive if you can get it at all. The tourism industry in the Okanagan, which is a multi-million dollar industry every year, is being devastated. Increasingly, we are seeing fires and smoke throughout the interior of British Columbia, and that is having a real challenge on putting a real challenge on the tourism industry. I think it's important that all of us recognize those tourist operators, they need help. When it isn't as smoky, maybe we can all help out by, visiting those parts of the province. But it is an economic challenge in other senses too, not only the loss of buildings, the loss of businesses, the insurance costs. But this is also costing taxpayers a lot of money, which is something that we don't always think about. Fighting these fires is very, very expensive. We need to, of course, do it. This is not something that governments can scrimp on. And as we are seeing more impact, more natural disasters, particularly fires, but also things like floods, things like hurricanes, things like tornadoes. It's, I guess, a record season for tornadoes here in Alberta. All of these things bring with them some disaster relief costs. Governments, provincial, federal, and even municipal, they have really no choice but to offer support to the victims of these natural disasters. But that money has to come from somewhere. And that leaves fewer dollars than available for other things that taxpayers pay for, things like healthcare and education. And it puts some pressure on governments to, constantly be increasing taxes or finding other ways to reduce taxes. Now, I certainly am not not advocating that we don't spend money on disaster relief. We have to put tax dollars, public dollars towards disaster relief. But we have to keep in mind it is one more way we are paying for climate change and the impact of more extreme weather events. And I know the topic of climate change and particularly the human contribution to climate change and what we should be doing about it, I know it tends to be a bit of a divisive topic. It is often controversial. But I think we have to recognize that if we aren't paying for making changes in the way we live, in the way we burn fossil fuels, we are paying for it one way or the other. And these devastating fires, the human tragedy, but also the economic costs of these natural disasters, we are seeing how it is costing all of us in the economy and as taxpayers. So our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers go out to all of those people who are suffering in the Okanagan and other parts of Canada this week with the devastating fires. Now, shifting gears a little bit, maybe on some happier news, I want to fill you in on a few of the keynotes that I'm going to be giving in the coming weeks here in August. It's an interesting group. I've got 3 big keynotes coming up. Next week, I am doing a virtual keynote on Zoom to Canada Career Counseling. This is a national group that does counseling and does career sort of helping people who have maybe been displaced in their jobs figure out a new career path, a new career course. I'm going to be talking about to them about some of the changes we're seeing in employment in Canada. Maybe some of the new ways we think about what a job is, what employment even is. I think in a lot of ways we are in this, what I always describe as a liminal space between one state of existence in the 20th century, when employment often meant a 9-to-5, Monday to Friday job, the kind that Dolly Parton would have sang about, working 9 to 5, that typical sort of office job. And now we are moving into something very different. And it's not quite clear yet what employment in the future is going to look like. But we know it is not going to look a lot like employment in the 20th century, in the 80s and 90s. It is going to look somewhat different. So I'm going to be talking to that group next week. Later in August, I'm going to be talking at a dinner here in Calgary to the Canadian Centre for Food Integrity. This is a really interesting industry group. It has members and representatives from the entire chain of food, everything from farmers who grow the food right down to the processors and restaurants that deliver food to consumers and everything in between. Their big challenge is making sure Canadians have confidence in the food supply, in the safety of food, and trying to find ways to mitigate against some of the, at times perceptions around food safety. Is our food supply secure? Are people living in food deserts? without access to fresh and nutritional food. All of those kinds of issues are top of mind to this group. So I'm going to be giving a talk about how do we navigate a world of economic chaos, even in the world of food integrity, right from the farm to the table. And then the final group I'm speaking to in August is the International Foundation for Employee Benefit Plans. This is an international group. They're doing a big Canadian conference in Halifax. So this is going to be about 1,500 people from across Canada. These are people who represent employee benefit plans, mostly large companies, medium to large companies that have more sophisticated benefit programs for their employees. And these people attending the conference are going to be the people who manage these benefit plans. So again, I'm going to get into the weeds with them on some of the changes we're seeing in employment and what the new labor force looks like. So I just wanted to let you know a few of the really interesting groups I'm looking forward to speaking to later in August. Now, before we wrap up on our somewhat abbreviated The Take today, I want to let you know why I'm doing a pre-record. So you're watching this on Friday, August 14. I'm recording this on Wednesday, August 12. The reason is I am going in for hand surgery tomorrow. Yeah, Peter's got a nice little graphic of hand surgery there. I've got an issue with my joint in my thumb. The details aren't really all that interesting. It's a minor surgery, but I am going to be kind of laid up and probably on some heavy medication for the next few days, Thursday, Friday, and into the weekend. So I decided I don't know if I want to do a LinkedIn Live Friday morning, being on pain medication. So that's why we're taking advantage of the technology and doing a pre-record on Wednesday. So with that, and like I said, I don't have Gitane with me this morning, but I am going to invite my wonderful technical mastermind behind the take, Peter Clark. Peter, there he is.
There you are. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Like I said, it's fun to do this. That we're doing this at very impromptu and very clever way of thinking for yourself to make sure that you're owning that little space, space right here. And I hope more people will continue to tune into the take. And hey, good luck on well, it's going to be post. I guess I'll have talk to you by then. I hope so. But good luck with the surgery because.
Well, thanks very much.
I'm sure
all the regular watchers of the take will. I've often mentioned Peter. He is in the background. He is actually, in addition to being a really wonderful human being and a great friend of mine, Peter is the master at anything sort of technical around the video. He does my speaker reels for me on my website. He produces the take, and he's always so talented and so great at doing all of that. So people often hear me talk about you, but you don't often get to show up. So I just wanted to bring you out and trot you out in front of everyone to let everyone actually have a peek at the mastermind who does all the technical production behind the take.
Wow, that's very kind. I appreciate that. And it's always, listen, I'm a fan of what you do and always, not because I'm here as the producer. I mean, if I was not producing and helping with the show, I'd be watching this show because again, like you said, there's human stories behind the economics that we read all the time. And, by the end of the week, we're probably a little bit in a spin, and it's nice to go into the weekends listening to yourself and Gitane kind of share some insights and the guests that we've had, that you've had over the first 12 episodes or so has been fantastic. I hope more people will go back and hear and listen to those. They're still on your profile. I know that. And so that people can go back and see them. And even though they're in the past, the guests are so relevant and they're so smart and insightful. So, I'm sure we're going to have so many great episodes to come as well, my friend.
Well, the guest co-host I have had, I mean, I am absolutely floored when I think about how smart these people are. It brings to mind, I had a conversation years and years ago. Some listeners might remember the columnist, the Globe and Mail columnist, Jeffrey Simpson. He's retired, but he used to be a regular daily columnist. And I asked him, I said, Jeffrey, how do you know so much about all of these topics? And he said, I don't. I just surround myself with really smart people.
Right.
So
Right.
I've taken kind of a cue from him. I surround myself with people who are far smarter than I am, or at least far more informed on some of these really specific issues, and invite them to be part of the take and give, share some of their insights with listeners on these big topics.
Absolutely. And like I said, even though we have done these in the past, the guests speak in terms that actually apply from week to week to week. And that's why I know that the content is something worth going back and listening to. And then, of course, you're introducing some speakers and people that maybe some people have not heard of. Maybe it's not in their regular circle to start following. Right. But as you said, some incredibly smart people that have a perspective on things that, you might walk away with by saying, hey, I never thought of it that way before. So, no, I'm excited. There's some great shows coming up. And hey, more importantly, you're going to be back on top with a brand new hand. So that'll be
brand new hand next week. I'm doing the right hand this week. And then later, probably later in the fall, we'll do the left hand and take care of that too. So I'm just excited about the miracle of surgery, what they can do now to eliminate the pain and the carpal tunnel that I have. So it's going to be good.
Totally relate, my friend. Hey, I think we chatted before about things like this. It's this joy of being here and getting older. That's all it is.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely.
Well, with that, Peter, let's sign off on the somewhat abbreviated The Take for August 14. You have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. And you as well. Listen, and the healing. I will be talking. And the healing. All the white light sending to you for healing, my friend.
Thank you so much. And to everyone out there watching, we appreciate it. Check out my website, toddhirsch.com. Check out Peter's website too, redtv.ca. And we will see you next week on The Take. Thank you so much, everyone.